I've got a lot of cool stuff going on today. So we're going to do a workshop. This is Learn to Catch Fish from a Special Ops Veteran Pro Angler. That's me, myself, Nichols. I've got a few links that I will throw you guys in the chat. I want this to be, as interactive as possible. You guys can use the tools I'm going to share with you with any attachment or any attachment you have on your desktop. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got 2 hours. I'll do some breaks because I can't talk for 2 hours straight without boring myself or you guys. So I'll definitely work in a few breaks. I'll try and end early and see if we can do some questions at the end. But then, of course, I'll be available if you guys want to hit me up afterwards or anything like that. So first, we're going to do an introduction. I'll tell you guys about myself, how I got here, what I do, what I'm doing in this space, why I'm presenting on you. We'll talk about a phishing overview. I know a lot of you guys are military personnel. You've probably done Cyber Awareness Challenge like a half dozen times or more. So you know all about cybersecurity and all this stuff. And I'll talk more, just to get everyone on the same page of what phishing is in my world and how you guys can, help yourselves, help others, help your organizations, and protect really what my goal is to protect good people and bad people having an impact on good people. And that's why I'm here today. So we'll talk about how to scan an email. I'll give you some very basic overview skills of, how to start top to bottom, looking at sender recipient greetings. We'll do a little bit of links and attachments, tools that you guys can use. So all these are free open source tools. Most of them are web-based that you can just, view in your browser. You can submit artifacts to and try and take a look at and try and get a good understanding of, if an email is malicious or not. We'll talk very briefly about handling reporting. I'll show you guys some cool, fish in the wild that I've caught or that I've used as test studies. And then we'll talk about skills, military transitioning into cybersecurity and, why you guys are positioned for this growing field. That's really fun and really rewarding. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Nichols. If you're not here for my presentation, it's too late now. The door's already shut. You got to stay for the whole time. But hopefully you guys are all here for the right thing. We're going to talk about phishing today. I'm really pumped to be a part of VetSecCon. This is my second iteration. I love working with veterans. I'm a veteran myself and still in the military. So, and I love teaching people about phishing and cybersecurity and ways to help themselves. So this is right up my alley. Super pumped to be here. But my background, so I've got 15 years in IT and cybersecurity. I had a little bit of a transition, that most people wouldn't expect initially out the gate. So I went to school for accounting, did accounting for a little bit, didn't like it at all. I really liked analyzing problems, figuring out what was wrong, and then helping solve those. So I liked that part of accounting. I didn't like really anything else in the accounting realm. So I quickly pivoted into IT. Growing up, as I reflect back, I was always the person that, liked using technology to solve problems. Like I would help program the VCR and we get a new car and I would strum through the owner's manual. I was a big nerd and I would figure out how to program the radio and how to turn settings off and how to annoy my siblings because I could shut off, the headphone jack where they would sit and stuff like that. So I was doing that as a kid and I was like, I kind of like this IT stuff. And I got my first job in IT in college at a help desk at my university. And if you don't know where to start, that's my first piece of recommendation. Try and get a job on a help desk. I loved working at a help desk for a lot of reasons. One, it gave me exposure to a lot of different components of IT. I was talking to people about network problems, server problems, desktop issues, Wi-Fi issues, projectors, AV, everything in between, passwords, security, anything you can imagine, I was getting exposure to. And the most important thing was I was using soft skills. So I was using communication skills to understand a problem, translate that, talk to a very technical individual or resource, find that solution, and then communicate that back to the end user. And those were huge. I mean, those are things I still use today. And it was fun. I saw all these different things. And that's kind of where I got my first security look was these students would come to us at the help desk. They would have viruses on their computers. They wouldn't know how to fix it. And it would always be, 11th hour on midterms or finals. The research paper that they had done all this work on allegedly wasn't always the case, but had fallen victim to this virus. And, sometimes we were able to save the day. We could run some tools. We could unlock or remove some malware. This was kind of in the pop-up era. So if anyone knows what I'm talking about, you would get a bunch of pop-ups on your screen and it would tell you hey, you can't do anything until you close all these pop-ups. That was kind of that era. So that tells you how long ago it was. Those are really not a thing anymore. But anyway, we were solving problems and we were helping people out. And I really love that. Long story short, I did that for a little bit. I got into networking, security, did some, incident response, defensive stuff, threat intel, things like that. And then I also had some government jobs as well. Kind of in tandem with that, I joined the National Guard not long after college. Really, really liked the military, loved it. My dad was an 82nd guy, still like 82nd through and through. Like you can't catch him without an all-American thing on. He's just like always in that space. So I love the military. Always wanted to be a part of it. Joined the National Guard, and I've had an awesome career in the National Guard too. You know, I started out as a signal officer around the 2017 mark, 2018 mark. They started rolling out the cyber branch to reserve components. So I selected or assessed, got selected into that, put it in my packet, was picked up, went through that training pipeline, really loved it. And then in tandem with that, I was doing, industry stuff at the same time. Ended up going out to the DC area and the Beltway. I'm out there now, and I've been working out in that space for a couple of years. And I'm doing a little bit of consulting now too. So I'm helping small, medium businesses, improve their posture, helping teach people how to catch fish, things like that. And that's kind of the space I'm trying to transition a little bit more into is, getting more in front of people and clients and stuff like that. But I wrote a book, How to Catch a Fish. That's kind of the play on the title here. It's available on Amazon. I wrote this, it's going on the second or the 23 it came out. I wrote it mostly in 22. It teaches people, from a base level of all backgrounds. So it could be like a non-technical person to like a tier 1, tier 2 help desk person. It teaches them ways to interrogate emails, use free open source tools to identify, indicators of compromise or indicators of suspicious activity, and then how to handle those. So I did that because I worked on a help desk. I responded to lots of incidents and I had no baseline. So I thought it'd be cool to create one so that people could use this as a step-by-step process to figure out how to identify malicious emails. So I've done really cool stuff in the military. So like I said, I did some cyber work for a while, and then I got into a special operations unit, and I've been there for almost 5 years now. Deployed with them in 22, came back, still with them right now, and still in the National Guard, and really enjoying it. Really cool experience in Iraq. I got to work with an Iraqi military force and see how they're doing cybersecurity, see how they're doing information technology, help them plan for courses and development and really mature their service, and see really they're very similar to how we operate, how things work. It was a really cool experience. I've got a bunch of certifications. I've been to a bunch of trainings, both industry, government, military related, and I've really enjoyed this time in the field. I only really use LinkedIn. I don't have any other social media. I'm not smart enough or have enough time to manage those. So if you want to get a hold of me, you want to see what I'm talking about or what I'm up to, I try and post on there pretty regularly. I would love to connect, shoot me a message, whatever, tag me, talk about this presentation, whatever you want to do. But that's the best way to get a hold of me on social media. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk about what is phishing. So I just want to get everyone on the same page, get us at a good known starting baseline. So phishing, for the context of this talk, it can be applied to many different technologies and atmospheres and environments and stuff like that. But what we're going to talk about today, it's when a threat actor uses technology to deceive an individual to take a specific action. Those actions are usually like one of three things, and we'll talk about them right here. But you use this in a multitude of ways using different social engineering techniques. So the social engineering, really, it's just like methods that they're getting you to do this action. They're preying on humans being humans. There's a psychology behind this. They know we're busy. They know we read emails. They know we have lives. They know we have, moral compasses, and we want to succeed, and we want to do the right thing. We want to help people out, and we want to make money. And all these things are kind of factored into, phishing campaigns that are really good. Pretty much every single email campaign that's malicious in nature comes down to one of three things that they want you to do. And they being, malicious actors, APTs, nation states, things like that. They want you to click a link. They want you to interact with some sort of HTML resource to go to a page or download something or enter your credentials or something like that. They want you to either provide sensitive information. So think of things like, hey, can you send me your social? Can you tell me the password to the vault? Or can you let me in the side door at 2 p.m., whatever that is. Like they're trying to get something sensitive from you that might not be a resource they want you to go to. The other thing is interacting with an attachment. So we'll talk about attachments a little bit more. You guys should all know what attachments are, but if not, we'll cover that in detail. But they want you to download this attachment, run it, potentially forward it on. So they might leverage your reputation and your status in an organization as a credibility method. The best way to think about that is like the CFO gets an attachment that says, hey, this is everyone's bonus for 2025. Can you forward it to the entire company? The CFO is like, heck yeah, I can. Forwards it out to everyone. They're like, wait a second, I shouldn't have done that. But now it's coming from the CFO. Everyone thinks it's legit. They'll take a look at it. We'll talk about some of these techniques. This is a very, very large pool of things that could go on. The sky is literally the limit. These are the most common ones. There's a graphic that I actually pulled that I used for my book. These are kind of like the top 6 that you might see as an everyday user or working on in a security team or on a help desk. The common ones, so your friend or coworker, loved one sends you a strange message that's out of context. Like this might be something like, hey, I'm lost. I need some money to get back. I got stranded on vacation, or I'm really down. I need some money to catch a cab and get home, things like that. Your emotions are heightened. So we'll talk a little bit about this at the end of the presentation, but something like the hurricanes that just went on down south, like Hurricane Helen and Helene and stuff like that. COVID-19 was a great example of this, or things like that. Like, hey, there was a tragic event that just occurred in the world. People need help. Can you help them send some money over here? Or I need your help because I was impacted by this. This is a very, very common one. The request is urgent. So it's almost always time sensitive. So it's something like they want you to do really quickly. There's been all kinds of studies on, how you can just put a clock somewhere and it raises everyone's stress and anxiety and ability to not think clearly and act, out of context a little bit. So it's usually like time bound. So you have 1 day, you have 3 days, your account will be erased, deleted, removed, whatever. The offer is too good to be true. So this is like, hey, you won the lottery and you didn't play. That doesn't make sense, but I want to win the lottery too. So cool. Let me click on that link. You didn't ask for help, but someone's offering it. So they're like, hey, I can help you finish your job, or I've got this, really cool resource. You should click on it and hang out with us. You didn't ask for that help. It's probably not good. And the sender can't prove their identity. So if you ask some clarifying questions like, hey, we don't normally do this. This doesn't make sense. So we don't process payroll until the 15th. Are you asking me for it now? What did you wear yesterday? And they're like, I don't know what I wore yesterday. Or I wore a green hat. And you're like, this guy never wears a hat. So stuff like that. Like if they can't prove their identity, another, these are common attacks or things to look out for in phishing campaigns that might lead to suspicious activity or in some cases malicious. So why do we care about phishing? Why is this such a big thing? I'm a big fan of the Verizon data breach report. We'll talk about that in my resources at the end. If you don't know what that is, write it down really quick. It's really, really cool. It's Verizon puts out this report. It's pretty neutral in the environment. They interview all these different organizations all over the world. They look at the trends of breaches for the last year. So they're only looking at the previous 12 months. They look at what's going on in that industry, look at, the previous data they have, and they do all these really cool graphs, and it's written really, in a really, really awesome tone. So definitely recommend checking that out. But, one of their statistics is 91% of successful breaches start with a phishing attack. Phishing works. Everyone gets email, everyone gets bad emails, everyone gets spam, things unwanted. People are inundated with emails. Like if you send a phishing campaign out, like if it gets through to people, someone's going to click on it. So that's why attackers keep using it, and they're going to keep using it. And if you talk to someone in this industry 20 years ago, they would say phishing was a risk. It's still a risk. And I think in, the next 10, 15, 20 years, we'll still be talking about this. One of the things that I fear near and dear to my heart is the training videos and the security awareness programs. They're all compliance based. And what I mean by that is they have requirements of what you have to do throughout the year to check a box and meet this compliance requirement. They're not actually focused on teaching people, the right behavior and changing that and monitoring the right metrics. They're just saying like, hey, you need to send your people these videos every year. You need to send simulated phishing attacks, and that's it. And then you're good because you're doing security awareness training. And that kind of leads us down a very dangerous, bad path where people get complacent. They start to pick up on the phishing emails. You get really poor numbers and metrics and stuff like that, but you just keep doing it because, you pay this company to do it every year, and they do it, and they don't really learn. They don't really change the behavior. And that's the purpose of security awareness training and videos and things like that is like, you want the behavior to be aligned to your organizational risk posture. You want it to improve. You want people to report the bad things, to act how they should act as part of your organization, not, how they're going to act normally or how they're going to act on their own or something in between. You want to try and get that as close to your organizational culture as best as possible. Good phishing simulations are typically going to yield somewhere around 20 to 40% click rates. That varies. If you're below 15-ish%, you're probably not doing things right. I've consulted with a few organizations that are getting like 0% click rates. And I'm like, wow, this is really bad. Like there's no way your users are that good. They're not like superhumans. We've got to improve on this. And I've worked at other ones where it's like, yeah, we get like 60% click rates. And I'm like, wow, that's horrible. Like, dude, come on. Like everyone's clicking everything. We got to do something. We got to get back to the basics. And I have a really cool tool at the end that I use with some of my clients and that I'm trying to get in front of as many people as possible to help improve this using, some reported phishing emails and getting people together and trying to do some, old fashioned collaboration, which is wild. Again, why phishing? So I love this slide too. I post about this all the time. We as as a society, but specifically like as an organization, wherever you work at, like we will throw money at all kinds of endpoints, devices and detection methods and security features and stuff that we're fixing all these problems that we don't really have. And then we'll do, annual training once a year. And we'll do like a simulated phishing exercise for like 10% of the company, like once or twice a year. And it's like, we'll spend the world on the hardware and the technology and the SIM and the zero trust and the AI models and all this stuff. But then if you want to do like some live in-person training, somehow we never have money for it. And it's like, well, we got security awareness training. What do we need that for? And it's like, in my opinion, everything should be swapped here. Like we should be spending a lot more money on the humans and less money on our endpoints and getting back to some of the basics, which are like inventory, asset management, like network segmentation, things like that, before we get all these crazy, like blinky light boxes that we spend all kind of money for. Okay. So impacts of phishing, literally this crushes businesses all over the world. It crushes people. There's all kinds of unnecessary training that come from it, headaches, loss of funds. Criminals make a lot of money, nation states. There's articles about North Korea, doing this to fund their military and fund their government. Nation states, gain access to, trusted environments that they shouldn't have access to, and they gain intelligence and they steal secrets and they do all kinds of stuff with, starting with phishing emails. The cost of the breach, it can be massive. It can be nothing. It just depends on your organization. It could be 465 million, is one of the high ends, but like there's other organizations, that they wire, $50 in gift cards somewhere. Like that's not a huge loss, but that can build up over time. So just know, it can have major financial impacts. I have an interesting story about a small business I worked with once. It was, kind of like devastating to me, and it still bothers me to this day. But I was working with a small mechanic shop once, and it was literally like a husband, wife, and their son. And I think the husband was the mechanic, the wife ran the office, and the son was kind of like a hybrid. He did a little bit of both. So they had bought in a bunch of, I don't know if it was like tires or motor oil or something like that. And they bought that, they received the goods, they got the invoice from this vendor. They had this relationship with the vendor for a long time. So it was something where, they would receive the goods and they would bill them within 30 days or something like that. So they got the invoice, they went ahead and they paid this invoice. And then like a week later, they got a second invoice for the same set of goods and services for the same vendor. And they're like, oh, this has to be an error or whatever. So they didn't pay it. They got a third invoice saying like, hey, you didn't pay this last invoice. Something's going on. So they called the company and they said, hey, we've got this receipt. We paid this invoice. We also got your change of banking information. We saw you guys move banks. We signed that form and we sent the money out. And this vendor was like, we didn't send any change of banking information. We still use the bank down the road. And they're like, there's no way that's possible. They're like, we've got the email. We'll send it over to you guys. It's your guys. You just got to fix it on your end. This was a larger organization they were dealing with. So like it had issues. They start going through that. They find out, eventually they call in some experts. They look at the emails. There was a business email compromise. A vendor that they had been using was compromised, sent them this fake invoice that they had lived in this email for a little bit. They had, understood how things worked and how things operated. They had actually pulled one of these invoices back, edited it briefly. And then they found actually one of the banking transfer forms. And then they, edit it to send the money to an offshore bank. And then, sent this all after their last order. The business sent all the money out. And now they were like, hey, we have to pay for these goods twice. And it like literally crushed this business. Like I think it was like something like 50 or 60 grand, which, for a big business, that's like nothing. But for a mom and pop, like mechanic shop, that's huge. That's like weeks or months of revenue for them, let alone like income after they've paid all their expenses and stuff like that. So they were like devastated. They were like, what do we do? And, I was like looking at everything and I was like, yeah, like we can take a look at this email. We can pull everything up. I can show you exactly what makes this legitimate. And then we're going to need the logs from this, the vendor that got popped. Vendor sent them over and we were able to look at those and say, okay, look, they all logged in from, I don't know, I'm just making up a state like Texas every single day. And then all of a sudden we've got 3 logins from Romania. We're like, that's kind of weird. And then they sent you an email, and we, walked everything back, and we found their email was compromised. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get the money back for them. It wasn't enough that, we could do anything with federal law enforcement or anything like that. We reported it up and stuff, but they were devastated, and they started to get a lot more conscious of cybersecurity. Unfortunately, it took them losing a lot of money that they worked really hard for. So, to kind of learn that. I'm going to pause really quick here and just check the chat, make sure you guys can still hear me. We can proceed. Okay. Oh, okay. So I suggested a share screen. Didn't get his attention. An infinity screen. What is going on with this? Hold on. Let me stop sharing. Were you guys able to see any of my slides? Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Let's try this again. All right, cool. So now you guys can see my slides. All right. Well, I apologize for that, guys. I will, just to make sure that we're on the same page, I'm gonna keep this up so I can see the chat. I couldn't seem to do that before. See if I can just go through this. All right, cool. Well, since these are all new slides to you guys because you didn't see them before, I'm not going to go through everything in painful detail again, but I will just hit you guys at a very high level. So this is our agenda. I talked through that. This is my background. That's my book. My LinkedIn snapshot really quick. We talked about phishing. These were the types of techniques that I discussed, just our facts about phishing. So actually, it wasn't too bad. There wasn't too much you guys really needed to see. They just complement what I was saying. This was my favorite chart about why we spend way more money on endpoints than humans. And I think that actually brings us, to the story time. So cool. Glad I caught that before I went the whole 2 hours. That would have been a great success. So cool. We'll talk about business email compromise. If you guys aren't aware of what that is, this graphic, again, this was used in my book. This is I believe it's from the FBI, actually. This is their explanation of business email compromise. But it all starts with attackers identifying a target. So they identify an organization, a company, a government entity, an individual, whatever that is. They do some grooming, some recon, some information that they can find on the open web or however else they're going to collect that information, and they spearfish that target. So they sit there, they compromise the target, they grab their credentials. Usually it's an organization that doesn't have like multi-factor authentication or stuff like that, something they could easily log into. A lot of times we'll see this in Office 365. So if the organization doesn't have MFA enabled, multi-factor authentication, you can just log in with username and password. I've seen rules created within those mailboxes where they will forward out specific emails that say things like invoice, payment, credit card, finance, processing, things like that. So they'll be sitting there monitoring this mailbox for any of that activity. Once they see it, they'll get an alert, or they will just notify, another party or another organization. They'll hop back into this email account, and that's when they start getting to work. So once they get to work, they're looking for that exchange of information. So kind of the story that I talked about with mechanics and sending invoices and money and all that kind of stuff. They will wait for that information exchange. They will alter that. So they will request that money be sent to a bank account that they control, or they will send goods to an address they control, or whatever that is. Usually it's sending money to a different bank account. Mostly what happens in business email compromise, they'll change the banking or routing information to somewhere different. And then when they go to process that payment, they process it, and the attacker controls that bank account. They take out those funds and kind of move on. And then they exit. So you're using like a good known vendor, a good known source. There aren't a lot of indicators in those emails to show that they're bad. That's what the part is like dangerous, because like if you took a look at the header, if you look at the message, like there's probably not any like malicious links. It's probably not a malicious attachment. It's just like they're using that trusted, good known email domain, that email account to request the information. Your major indicator here is like the abnormal activity. And that's where like I always recommend like 2 or 3 forms of communication to change any sensitive information. So like if I'm going to request that my banking information be changed, I'm going to say, hey, can you pick up a phone and give me a call? Can you, if you use fax machines, or can you use some other form of communication? Can you call me on my desk phone? Can you mail me some requests and then I can call you? Something like that. And I'm going to verify that contact information. I'm not going to go off what's in an email. I'm going to use like a good known trusted number. I'm going to reach out to another person at that organization and confirm that this is accurate. Things like that. But we'll talk a little bit now. So where can we start? So Tom, you're a little bit on blast here. I was looking for a great intro of like an example email that I received recently that was relatively safe, that had a link and attachment in it. So I apologize, Tom, but I got you on this one. So I like to start when I go through a phishing email or I go through any email, really, just analyzing messages at the top from the bottom. And we'll go into some of these in detail, but what I'm really looking at, we've got our subject up here. We've got the sender, we've got our greeting, the content. This is, the name, the signature block, and then we've got an attachment here. So I will go from top to bottom, kind of in that order. I'll do a once over scan, see if anything looks weird, and then I'll start diving into, my messages or my indicators as they come up. And one thing to note here too, like there is no one thing in every single email that can tell you it's good or bad. Like that just doesn't exist. What we're trying to do here is look at the email subjectively, gather a list of suspicious indicators, and then make a determination. Like I can't tell you that every single link is bad, every single attachment is bad, or if the link or attachment are good, the rest of the email is good. Like that doesn't work. So you have to kind of do this manual process on your own. And there's a million tools in the world. Like I've worked with Proofpoint, Titan HQ, Spam Titan, like all these different mail filtering tools, and they work great in different capacities, but like you still need to have a manual process because there are suspicious or malicious emails that will get through that. And that is a fact. And all those companies will tell you that. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're not telling you the truth. So you as an individual need to know how to do this on your own, but also as organizations and cybersecurity professionals and network defenders and stuff, like this is a skill that's going to benefit you everywhere, everywhere you work and everywhere you go. And as long as you have an email account, which should be a long time, it's something you're going to need to do. So where do we start at? I talked about a little bit, like we start from the top to the bottom, we scan through here. We'll look at, the sender, the recipient and stuff like that. The first thing I want to highlight on this one, this is a little bit different message, a little bit older, but I would look, starting here at the top, we've got this subject alert message from Amazon.com. That's a little bit weird to me. It's also like, okay, this is Amazon.com. It's a trusted vendor. Potentially, did I buy something? Do I use them for anything? Is this abnormal? But the alert message, it's already got me kind of like thinking a little bit, is this good? Is this bad? Should I be concerned? It's kind of neutral. But then I'll take a look at the sender. Does anyone see anything odd about this sender address? Missing a, yep, I love it. The @ symbol, I guess it's really right after that, but yes, it's missing an A. But if you glanced at this, I know we're doing this, in front of everyone and everyone's like an expert right now and they would never miss this in a million years. But like, if it's like 4:15 on a Friday and you're leaving at 4:20, like I might miss this, like I'm like trying to get out for the weekend. It's done intentionally. So this is like one of the first things that we want to look at is looking for spoof senders. So we'll talk very, very briefly. No, I'm not leaving at 4:20. We'll talk very briefly about domains. So this is like at a very high level. So here we've got an example of a domain. So this is cfcwiorders.org. The domain is right here. It's cfcwiorders, and then the TLD, the top level domain is .org. The subdomain, this is just what's in front of the domain. Not that important for us right now, but you can see suspicious activity with a malicious subdomain or something like that. The username is up front here. So this is like for me, nick.ols, Knowles, Nick, whatever that is. This is just like what the username is. And then the display name, this is important to know, can sometimes be different than the username. So when you're taking a look at this, like you would just kind of glance across this and say, okay, is this my domain or is this the domain I'm expecting email from? Does the subdomain make sense? Is the top level domain correct? Is the username and the display name the same? So is it orders here, but then the display name is like Sam from orders? Like, I don't know, that's kind of weird, but it's just a tool to kind of look at. And I think this brings us to like our first practical exercise. So the URL, I'll say yes. We'll get to the URL. Thank you. I want to take a few minutes for you guys to play around with this tool really quick. Hopefully you can still see my page, and I will snag the URL if my internet is going to work. Great, cool. This is going perfect. All right, cool. So I just threw the URL into the chat. So DNSFisher.report. I just went to it on the page. If you guys don't trust me, you can go to it at your own risk, I guess. But so this is a really cool tool. It lets you put in a DNS entry or a domain, and it spits out all the different permutations of that domain and what is registered and where they are registered. You could throw in your own domain. You can throw in CNN.com. You could throw in, Facebook.com, LinkedIn.com, whatever it is. It'll spit out, different permutations of those and then where they're registered. So I did this once at an organization I worked at. We were mostly based in the US. We had a very specific domain name. I threw that in there. I saw a bunch of very odd domains registered in countries we didn't operate in. And I was like, this is kind of suspicious. I'm like, should we do anything for this? The answer is yes, we should, because someone registered these domains. They're either one, registering these to sell them back to you. This is called domain squatting, where they will register the domain, sit on it. And then one day when you're like, hey, I actually want to buy this so that no one else can use it, they're like, cool, I'll sell it to you for, I don't know, $50,000. And I paid $12.99 a year for it. Or two, they're going to use that to phish your organization. And they're going to use that to impersonate your organization, either to attack your vendors or to attack your individuals. So this is very challenging because you can go forever getting these different permutations, but it is good to know and good to potentially work into your detection and your mitigation process. And it's something cool to play around with. So I want people to throw in whatever domain you want. And maybe if like a few people could share a cool permutation that they found. So my example here was Raytheon. Sorry if anyone works for Raytheon, but that was just what I used for an example. They're mostly a defense contractor here in the US, a big presence in the DC area. But I see this Raytheon with 2 R's. That looks a little weird to me, but I could see that being used as a phishing email. Does anyone have a cool, permutation or alternate domain that they saw with one that they tested? Zoogle. Interesting. Okay. Adesys. Cool. Anyone else? City and saw lines. Okay. Cool. .live. Yeah, the top level domains are wild. Like there's so many new top level domains that come out all the time. And that could, a Cyrillic A. Oh man, that's dirty. That's something. Yeah, I like that one. So I don't really get into that, but that is interesting, using different keyboards and different languages or language packs to make characters look different. We once got a Swedish O from an accent for a fish. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was talking about, different language packs. So that's super cool. I don't talk about that in my book or in this class. That's a little bit more advanced, but that is a way, that people can use that to deceive users and stuff like that. But cool. Well, hopefully you guys found that useful. This is a cool little tool. You can, file it away somewhere and use it to help protect your organization. One thing, like I said, I found a list of these. I then put it as a detection tool to say, hey, if we get any emails from these permutations, I want to know, I want to get alert on it. This could be phishing emails. And we did end up catching, an individual that was, an organization. I won't say an individual because we don't know that. An organization that was trying to impersonate our brand. They were trying to deceive a vendor. And actually, I think how we caught them was they were impersonating the CFO of the organization. They were asking for them to sign some sort of financial document. I don't remember the context of it. It might have been like an invoice or something like that, but they were impersonating our CFO. They contacted our finance department. They said, hey, I need you to sign this document so I can send it out to the vendor for processing. And the finance, director was like, wait a second, why would the CFO ask me for this? Doesn't make any sense. And as we're looking into it, we're like, yeah, because we don't have Raytheon with 2 R's. This isn't the person. So it was cool. It was a practical real world thing where we actually were able to catch this and figure it out and stop them from something bad happening. Well, cool. We'll keep moving along. I'll try and give you guys like a 5-minute break, probably like 10 till, just so if you guys want to step away for the bathroom or whatever, and then we'll just keep going and I'll answer any questions that come up. So next we're going to talk about greetings. So this is to me like one of the most important parts of the email after you look at the domain and the subject. So I know specifically, like for me, like I go by Nick. So if someone sends me an email that says Nicholas or Nikolai or anything other than Nick, there's either one of two things. They don't know me. They've never talked to me before, or they've gotten my information from somewhere else and they're just assuming that I go by my full name. This is like really important to pick up on because the greeting is the first thing you see after the subject and the sender message. It's like the first actual real content, and it's used to establish that credibility in the message. So if they're calling you by the first name, they're confident they know that's the first name. They know that's the go by. Maybe you have a nickname, maybe you go by like Tim, Sam, whatever, but your name is Fred, or you go by like little guy or Sparky or whatever it is, and those are all indicators of like a level of trust, a level of information. Big dog. I love it. A big Sarge, for the military dudes. A top, for sure, whatever you want to call them. Everyone's got all their names, but you're looking at that to establish credibility early on. If you don't know that person's name, or you're unsure, or you're, impersonating someone else, like this is a major sign. It's a major way to establish trust right away. So the first thing that I look at is like, this one says, dear customer. Like, does that make sense to me? Like, shouldn't they, if I'm using Amazon for services, like, shouldn't they know my name? Sometimes you'll see like the username or the account name or like dear valued customer, stuff like that. And you should start thinking like, is this the way they should be contacting me? Like, does this make sense? Is this normal? Do they normally reach out to me that way? Do people talk to me that way? Like, do they use my username or my first name or anything? Like, or they just say like, hey, I start a lot of emails. Hey, honestly, I start a lot of emails with dude, because I'm talking to like people I know really well. So I'm not putting in anything like crazy like that, but it's a thing to look at closely when you're starting to scan your emails as we move down here. Now we're going to go into the content analysis. So we've looked at the subject, we've looked at the domain, we've looked at our greeting. We're going to look at like the meat of the message, not any links, not any attachments or anything like that. We're going to look for those signs like, is there a sense of urgency? Is there a negative action? Is there a windfall, false contest, established trust, empathy, support? These are like the 6 or 7 things we had early on in the slides to show you signs of activity. So in this one specifically, we're contacting to remind you that on 20th June 2019. So first of all, this is a grammar error. Like, I wouldn't ever write that like that. We identified some unusual activity coming from a foreign IP, and they list this IP address. So they're telling me, okay, on this date, which is weird, there's this weird IP address in order to prevent any fraudulent activity from occurring. So there's some sort of adverse activity or action that's occurring. That's going to heighten my awareness a little bit. We're requiring you to open an investigation into this matter. They want me to take a look at it. It's pretty suspicious out of the gate. There's a lot of things that if you read this slowly, like you can pick up on, like there's a sense of urgency, there's an adverse action, there's a date and timestamp, there's an IP address, like all these things. I'm kind of like, this is kind of weird, but this is what you kind of need to look up objectively and start to pick out some of these things in the message as you're analyzing them, and make this list of potential indicators to give you an understanding of like, is this good? Is this bad? So I know someone brought this up in the chat that the link hovering didn't work. So I talk about this in my book a lot. I've taught this a lot of different organizations, but we're kind of, as an industry, in my opinion as well, starting to move away from link hovering. It's not that reliable of a way to determine what is behind that resource. And people tend to use that as a crutch to say, okay, well, hey, like this is going to, I was actually just looking into some attacks earlier today about GitHub. Like, this is a link that goes to GitHub. I know that's a legitimate site. Like, can I just click on it and go to it? And you're like, no. Proofpoint, great point. I didn't want to say that because I was kind of corny, but Kyle, that is an awesome point. So Proofpoint, they do a thing of some of the other ones. I know Titan HQ does this as well. They do some like link rewriting. I don't know what Proofpoint calls it. I think Titan HQ calls it like link lock or something like that. But in essence, what they're doing is every single message, if you're using this service, and these are usually like corporate environments, most home or free mail providers are doing this. Every single message that comes in, if it's got a link, they will break that link and rewrite it with their own link for the users. So when the users go, they get this email. Why users must fill this. So they get this email. If they hover over the link, it's going to say like safe links or link lock, whatever that is called. You click on it. At the moment that you click on it, that email service provider is looking at a known list, like a blacklist of whether or not this website is categorized as malicious or safe. If it is malicious, they won't let you go to it. And they'll just say, hey, this has been blocked. We stopped it. It's a bad activity. If it's good, they'll say, okay, cool. They'll reroute you to the actual page. So it's really, really hard to determine, where exactly that resource is going just by hovering over it. And then there's detection in place that are there to help you. The problem with those, and we'll talk about this actually a little bit, is those are only a point in time snapshot, and they're only as good as their detection and reporting methods. So they aren't catching a lot of emails, a lot of emerging threats that have new infrastructure that turns over very quickly. It's very hard to do that. It's a cat and mouse game that they will never catch up to. It helps, but it is certainly not foolproof. This was another slide I used to teach about this. It's just showing you exactly more about like hovering over links and stuff like that. And this is kind of why. There's a technique. Let me send this actually before I go any further. I want to send this link in the chat so you guys all have access to it. And you can go and read all about it and stuff like that. But I posted on this at LinkedIn, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. It was done by Palo Alto Unit 42. They're a very, very mature cybersecurity organization. They release really good reports, a lot of stuff about malware, phishing, stuff like that. But they talk in detail in this article about this header refresh issue. And in essence, what's going on here is when you request a URL, you send this request out to the server. before your response back tells you, hey, actually go to this other resource. So when you hover over the page, it's saying like, hey, I want to actually go to this page. You click on it, you think you're going to this page, you and the server communicate back and forth, and it automatically redirects you to a different page. And in this case, as part of the report, it was taking you to a page to log in with your email account. So if you see this @ symbol, there's actually like an email account embedded in here. So when you go to the page, it would have your email preloaded. You would just put in your password and log into it. So the point here, though, is like they're leveraging this response header sent by the server. This occurs before the processing of the HTML content. So like you don't even do any interaction here. You click the link, and then it auto redirects you to the separate page that you weren't intending to go to. So this is why, like, if I hovered over this link and it showed me this, and I was like, oh, that's cool. For some reason, I want to go to impactchd.in. Like, I know them. I click on the link, and then I look at my web logs, and I'm like, wait a second, actually, like, it redirected me to this page. It asked me to log in. Like, I don't know, was this like the security team messing with me? Is my proxy? Is this something like I can't get to it until I log in? Like, what is the deal? So that's why, like, there is some value occasionally hovering over links and trying to figure out where they go to, but also like it's not a foolproof thing anymore. And attackers have leveraged this to, trick users and to gain access into networks. So check out that article. It's really cool. Share it, tell people about it, tell people to stop hovering over links if they can. If you can't, so this is my like tried and true method to analyze links. I talk about this in my book too, but it's really, really simple. If you've got a mouse, if not, you can buy them on Amazon for like $10, super cheap. You want to left click on the link, not right click. If you right click, it's going to execute the page, take you to that HTML resource. You're going to left click, copy it, download Notepad++. It's a very free open source tool. If you don't have it yet, you're going to want it. You copy the link in here, and then you use this as like your starting point, your workshop, your baseline to start analyzing this link. Don't take it into a browser, take it into a Notepad, see what it's doing. And then there's a multitude of tools you can start executing in this. We're at like 10 to the hour almost on my time. I'm going to go ahead and pause for like 5 minutes. So at like 5 till we'll get it started again. I want to give you guys a second to ask any questions, make sure we're still on track for everything. And if anyone's got to like run to the restroom or let your dog out or whatever you guys got to do, you can go ahead and do that. Is that cool? All right. I got one thumbs up. So that speaks for everyone. So I'm here. If anyone has questions, you guys, I don't think you can unmute. So you say it in the chat and kind of go from there. If not, I'll just hang out here for the next 5 minutes and you guys can awkwardly look at me and make jokes. Trying to see if I recognize any names in here, any repeat customers from last year. Tom, that's about it so far. Yeah, that's a right click to copy to copy a page for an intended resource. Yeah, no problem, money. So I know we got like a lot of vets from all over, and I know anyone can really join this. You don't have to be a veteran. I guess just to pull the crowd for the people to kind of end the silence a little bit. I'm curious. We got a lot of Army people. We got Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, Space Force, Army. Cool. That's what's up. Army football team's going crazy this year, aren't they? Air Force. All right. It's cool, I guess. Navy. Cool. Coast Guard. Coast Guard does some really cool stuff, man. I probably wasn't smart enough to get into the Coast Guard, but they've got a cool mission. They're just super small. Navy's cool job. I mean, everyone's got cool jobs. They just got different lifestyles. Some of them have crummy jobs, but it just depends what you do. Oh, combat controller. That's cool, man. Oh, yeah. Dude, that sub video was so great. When they did that, I was like, wait, that's the Coast Guard? I'm like, I want to be in the Coast Guard, man. That and the, what was the one? The Guardian, I think. The one with like Ashton and he was like a rescue swimmer. I think that was it. Yeah, that one. That had to like, I like wanted to join the Coast Guard when I saw that movie. I was like, dude, the Coast Guard's super cool, man. Like the Army and like everyone else, they got to get videos like that. We got to get celebrities doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know the subboarding one. I was like, dang, these guys are getting after it. Good for them, man. I mean, they got to though with the pirates and all that stuff going on. Like, I don't want to board as a sub. I would last like one day on the sub. It'd be like, cool, man. It's not my thing. Yeah, I could see rescue swimmer being a really hard job to fill because you got to be super fit. It's a super long pipeline, and there's probably not many people that are like, I want to be rescue swimmers in the military. They want to be like, Charlie Sheen in Navy SEALs and like getting after it, right? That Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. It's just like the movies always. All right, cool. Well, that made things a lot less awkward. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that instead of everyone just staring at me and making jokes for my first 20 minutes without slides. Everyone can see my slides still. We're good. Cool. All right. So I think we're going to have another exercise coming up here, and we're going to go through some cool tools. So these are my favorite link analysis tools. So we talked a little bit about, like embedded links. We talked about not hovering over links. But what happens if you get a link and you want to take a look at it closer and you're like, hey, I'm not an expert at this, but I want to learn more about it. Or I want to try and get to be an expert about it. I don't have a ton of money or a ton of time to set up a bunch of, this crazy lab or these burner laptops and stuff like that. Like, you don't have to do that. You can use some of these free online tools that are readily available that anyone can get to as long as you have an internet connection. And you can use them to learn more about some of these messages. Yeah, we'll talk about Joe's Sandbox and there's some other tools. I've got my end slide has a bunch of resources that I use. My two favorite link analysis tools right now are VirusTotal and URLscan.io. Those are the ones that I use like the most for free resources. I've used VirusTotal every single organization I've ever worked at, everywhere. It's like the best one around. It's useful, it's accurate, it's easily available. It's just awesome. It works really well and everyone trusts it and uses it and it's good. URLscan, also an awesome resource. It does very similar things with the page, but actually gives you a little bit more features. But how these work, if you don't know anything about them, they check a known, you submit a link or an attachment to them. We're talking about links right now, so we're only going to discuss that portion of it. But you take your intended link. So we had this right here. This is a bit.ly. Bit.ly is a shortener for links. There's a ton of different ones, but you don't know what this is. You have this copied, or you copy this from Notepad++. You go over here. You open up one of these web pages, and we're going to do this as one of our practical exercises. And we're going to execute it. And you guys you'll be able to learn about and play around with this a little bit more. But what they do is they take a look at this link. They check a known repository of reported malicious sites. They say, hey, we've got this, millions and millions of records of malicious pages. They've been categorized by all these different antivirus vendors or by all these different services. Are they good or bad? Basically, it's like thumbs up, thumbs down, or I don't know. And they continuously update these, like literally every second. They're adding new lists, taking things off, changing them, whatever. Some will scan the page and make their own determination. If they've already been scanned, like VirusTotal does all the time because people are submitting things constantly to them, they'll look at like the most previous scan. They'll tell you if you want to rescan it, but they're all working in the same manner. They're taking a look at this page. They're checking a known database, if it's good or bad, and then they're giving you a report on that. Some of the pages, like URLscan, will let you interact with the page at times. But for the most part, if they're just making that determination, URLscan will actually take a screenshot of the page, which is what I love about it. So you'll be able to see like what is behind that. VirusTotal does not, but we'll get into it a little bit more. VirusTotal, like I said, the submission process is super easy. It's virustotal.com. You can submit files, URLs, or you can search a file hash, which is just like a unique signature fingerprint of a file. Talos, Threat Intelligence is another good one too. But what they do here in VirusTotal, you've got two outcomes. So one, once you submit this, it does its test. This is like all green, everything's good. You see this in the top left corner, it says 0. It depends. This changes a little bit of like how many resources they're checking. Sometimes it's 70, 90, whatever. That number fluctuates, so it's not important, but it'll tell you, okay, of all the resources, 0 found this as malicious. That's pretty good. This one on the right, 13 of whatever, 70, 80, 90 found it as malicious. Not a good sign. So this is like a pretty strong indicator. If 13 sites categorize this as malicious, it's probably not good. URL scan, very similar. You take your URL, you paste it in here, you hit the public scan. You can sign up, and I think they have a paid version too. You can do private scan, but most people are just going to use a public scan. You submit it on this. It's going to do a very similar process where it's going to check a known repository, but this one will actually scan the page. It'll get interactive with the page, and it grabs you right over here. You see a screenshot of it. So this right here is a screenshot of the actual page. It's a good known page, no issues. This was a bad page. You see it says malicious activity up here. It gives you an IP address, and it takes a screenshot of what that page is. You can open that. You can click on that and take a closer look at it if you want. And then it's got some, it's got some country code information, some IP information, some other indicators throughout the page to tell you like, okay, is this good or bad? But this brings us to our next practical exercise. So I want you guys, like I learned by doing, and I was hoping you guys could also learn by doing as well. So I've got both of the URLs for these pages. I'll send those in the chat right now. And then I've got some links that I've created that all lead to different pages. The goal of this exercise is for you to open up. I don't like that. Sorry, let me do. Okay, cool. I didn't like them back to back, so I just sent them separately. The goal is for me, once I send you guys these links, not to click on those links, not to be like, the user that just got phished, but to take these resources, copy the link, put it in, like Notepad++ or whatever else you want to do with it, and then execute it in both of these pages, both of these tools, see what the outcome is, study the difference between them two, and I guess tell me some of the resources that they intend to send you to. I will tell you guys, none of them are malicious in nature. They're all in good fun. I'm not going to do that to anyone here. Okay, looks like Kyle's checking out. That's cool, man. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. If you've got feedback, please, guys, hit me up. I'll do that again at the end. But yeah, I'm going to give you guys, we'll just do 5 minutes. So I've got one after. We'll do like 6 after. It shouldn't take that long, and you guys can play around with different tools. If anyone's got questions, let me know. If you see something cool or funny or embarrassing, also let me know. No, so that's a good question, Zach. So the first link, I can actually run through this. Yeah, so this first link, I think this is the one you were talking about, tinyurl.com or X, whatever. So it does have a 1 of 96. It's showing that 1 of the 96 vendors found this as malicious. Typically, in my opinion, like if I see one vendor flagging it, then like my level of concern is heightened. I'm not saying it's 100% of the case it's bad, but I am like, okay, this might be a bad site. So I don't know if I trust it. It should not be green. It's only green if it's 0 of 96. If there's any indicators, it's going to be red. Hopefully that answers your question, Zach. Interesting, Jacob. So did you use VirusTotal for that, I'm assuming? Yes, no, maybe. Anyone else find anything cool? Anyone find a cool video or book or product? Cool, you check the email header. Cool. Yeah, I don't go, so in this exercise, we don't go into email headers, this workshop, I should say. We don't go into email header analysis. I do go into that in my book a little bit. It is difficult. It was very difficult even in the book too, because the GUIs change so quickly. And then email headers, like they move around where information are and stuff like that. So I thought starting out, it'd be really easy to do. And then as I dove into it more, it's got a very short shelf life and it changes really quickly. So we don't go over that, but there are a lot of free resources, and I'm happy to provide those. And I've got a few in my book, like MX Toolbox is one of my favorites for analyzing the header information and trying to pull out that information. Well, I know at least one person is doing the practical exercise. That's reassuring. Okay, I've got 6 after. Is this enough time? Do you guys need more time? I just kind of assumed 5 minutes was enough. Do you guys, Hacker News is awesome. Love that site. Do you guys need more time? Or are we good? Or no, they are not all VirusTotal. So the purpose of this was to use VirusTotal and URLscan.io, both tools. They are not all, VirusTotal resources or pages, whatever. They all go to different resources, and then VirusTotal and URLscan would help you understand what is behind them. Does that make sense? Yeah, the URLscan, I love that. That's one of my favorite ones because I can tell like, hey, without me actually going to this page, I can tell you what's behind it. So if a user or someone I'm working with sends me a link or they're like, hey, I need you to look at this email attachment, like I can copy that link, send it to URLscan, they can analyze it, and then I can screenshot that screenshot, and then I never went to it. My machine isn't at risk here. And, they can understand what's behind it. And sometimes it's a legitimate page. It's like, hey, this is, what we thought it was. And sometimes it was, a Russian malware page, and you're like, yeah, that's not something I want to go to. Yeah, sometimes I check emails. All right, cool. I'm going a little bit slower here because I wanted to make sure everyone got time to go through that. But if not, I can definitely send you guys these resources and the the shortened resources and stuff like that. But it's pretty easy. But it's something I like to do because it gets you guys hands on. You get to use the tool. You get to see what it's like. Hopefully, you bookmark them and you can use them in the future. Or if you use them all the time, you're already like, cool, I got that. But we'll keep rolling, maybe. Yep, cool. Okay, so email attachments, very, very basic level. These are computer files sent with an email message. They can contain malicious code. That works. What I've seen though, doing this for a while now, like from when I first started to now, there's far less malicious messages with email attachments. I think we've done a pretty good job of our tools and our processes scanning and removing malicious attachments. It's also a lot more work for the attackers to constantly make malicious attachments that get signatured really quickly. And then they have to change them to beat new signatures and new tools and stuff like that. where like links are super easy to spin up, super easy to change, super easy to compromise someone else's infrastructure. Like I'm seeing clients and people and attackers, everything across the board. By and large, there's way more malicious emails sent with phishing than there are with attachments. Still something good to know, still something you should train on and you should train your individuals on. But, the purpose is like they're sending you a file in this email, you then download it, execute it, run it on your machine, whatever. But these are like the basic ones. If you're a good network defender, you're gonna block ones that aren't necessary for your users, like move, like movies, HTML, DLL, TXT. You're probably gonna allow PDF. You're gonna allow PowerPoint, MP3, RDP, shortcuts, and stuff like that. Like if your users are never going to have this email attachment, like just block it. And they don't have to worry about getting it. You don't have to worry about some attachment being weird. Well, the first thing whenever I get a weird attachment is like, does this make sense? Is this aligning to what the intention of this message is? So for instance, if someone says like, hey, I've got this new presentation for this product I'm working on. Can you take a look at it and give me your feedback? And they send me an Excel file. And I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't make sense at all. Or they're like, hey, this is an HTML attachment and they want me to look at this PDF. And I'm like, that doesn't even like jive. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Like, does the attachment even make sense to the context? And then should they be sending this attachment? Like, should I be receiving this presentation? Should I be receiving this salary bonus information, whatever it is? Like, probably not. Did I ask for it? Did I say, hey, can you send me this presentation? If I didn't, it's unsolicited. Like, I don't really like that. Do I need this information for my job? Am I intended to get this? Does this attachment align with the content? Should I extract this and analyze it? I would say for most people, you shouldn't extract and analyze attachments. I think there's far more things that can go wrong with you doing this than you not doing it. So like for most people, I would say you should probably just forward it to your security team, or you should mark it as spam, or you should just delete it. But if you are, tech savvy and you want to get more into this field, you can do this. The problem is though, once you download this attachment on your computer, you're at risk of it, executing itself, or it, installing some sort of code or something like that. There's not an easy, safe way to interact with attachments on your machine like there is with links. So I would just use that as like a sign of caution. When you get an attachment, just be a little bit cautious of what could happen next with it. But we do have really cool and easy tools for this. So again, we're going to go back to our tried and true, like VirusTotal. This is my favorite tool by and large. If I could only use one to analyze indicators from phishing email, it would be VirusTotal. You can also submit attachments to it, just like you could submit links to it. There are other sandbox tools. I know someone mentioned Joe Sandbox at the beginning of it. I've got a slide at the end that's got some resources and stuff like that you can use. Joe Sandbox is another one. But the purpose of this, so Sandbox in general, before we even get into that, Sandbox gives you a safe, controlled environment to execute an attachment or a file on it. Once it's executed, then it's running a series of tests to identify malicious activity. So that could be DNS, it could be registry entries, it could be processes that are executed or killed, modifications on the system. Like all these things are going into it. It's analyzing it. They usually only run for a certain period of time. Some are, 5 minutes, some are 20 minutes. Some let you run this and interact with it. It just depends on what you're doing. And then if not, then it just says, hey, this is, it produces a report saying this file is safe, or it lets you produce your report or whatever is in between. We're only talking about, the web cloud versions of these because they're the free ones that are easily accessible. There's a laundry list of ones that you could set up, on a standalone computer. You could set up in virtual environments, things like that. The easiest ones, in my opinion, are these cloud-based ones. This triage by Recorder feature is one of the ones that I've been recommending and using lately. I used to use any.run a lot, but now I've kind of moved away from there a little bit. And then Joe Sandbox, hybrid analysis, things like that. I don't have a great way to get you guys the file to test on this. I can just walk through it really quick. You guys can go to these pages. That's going to bother me. Click. You guys can go to these pages right now at VirusTotal.com, the same one. I'll type this in the chat. It's like that. I'll run you through triage really quick and you guys can take a look at what it, all right, cool. So I logged in really quick. I've got a test file that you guys can open. So I've got a file. I don't know what it is. This is also weird because it says it's .exe, but it's a Word document. So kind of odd. If you have a password, you would put it in here. You hit submit, and then you kind of hang out and you just wait for it to it's going to do like kind of dorks that one up a little bit, but let me go back here for a second. Let me start over. So I'm going to hit, okay. Sorry, we went to a page really quick. You could submit your operating system. So you could pick like, I want to be Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever. I did not do that. I just hit the default. It's going to execute this file, give you this kind of report to show you what's going on. This is where it's taken a screenshot of what is in here. It's just got you submitted a test file for me. But I think, yeah, it's actually letting me interact with the file. So if I was like, hey, I want to type something here, I want to click one of these pages, it'll let me go to it. I know it's kind of hard to see on your screen, but the point is it's executing this in a safe environment. It's not on my machine. I can now interact with this file. It's got a timer. So I told you they're all time bound. And then I can take a look at, some of these details about the file, the hash, the size. If I want to share this with something, if I want to just resubmit it, say like I ran this before, which I had already done, it's going to run this file through the same series of tests. Oh, this is what I was talking about before, where you could select, like your operating system. So for me, I don't know, I want to hit Windows 10. I'm using English. Let me hit analyze, and then we'll let it run through again. But it's a pretty cool tool, like for not paying any money and then being able to submit these files to. The one caveat I will say, you don't control where these files are going. This is going to a free service. So if it is something like sensitive on your organization, or you don't have authority to do this, you might want to like ask for that, or that might be where you want to look for like a paid version of it. But for like everyday users and stuff like that, like I would use it. See, I want to close that air box, and we still got our timer going. And now, like I can do almost anything that a user could do in their environment. And then if I want to end it, I can just hit terminate, and it's going to close. So while it's doing that, I'll just go to VirusTotal really quick, bounce back really quick, because I don't think there's much else to see. But here's how you would submit a file. So same thing. It was really quick because I had already run this before. But if I go to detection, I can see this vendor had identified this as a Trojan. So it's probably not a good resource to go to. You guys didn't see that? That's awesome. You guys see this now? I'd open another browser. I thought you guys could see that, but it's clearly you weren't able to. Okay. So for some reason, my demo is not working on my screens. I guess the point is you guys can go to Triage or VirusTotal.com. You could submit a test files, and it's going to produce some reports for you. Let you interact with the files. I apologize for that, guys. I thought you were all able to see my screen for that. But I just walked through submitting the files and running them. So we're going to talk a little bit about themed emails here. So we've got a couple different ones that I've just like stacked up on top. But the point of this here is, like attackers will take current events into their account when they're looking at phishing campaigns. And they will say, hey, like there was a geographic area where there was major layoffs. So maybe we should send an unemployment phishing campaign. Or this company just fired a bunch of people. Maybe we'll send those previous employees emails about their benefits. It's things like that attackers look at the environment, they look at the current events, and then they prey on them. So they trick people that they know, hey, I was just impacted by that. I'm gonna, help, or I need this help, or I could use this resource that they're offering, or stuff like that. Like they're really preying on the psychological thing. The most recent ones that I can think of that were like the best case example of these are unemployment ones. There's been a lot of, layoffs and employment, things going on in our economy and our environment. The hurricane recently, so down in Florida, and then in North Carolina, so like tragic events like that where people were out of power. There was floods. There was like major issues with infrastructure. This one in the back, you can't really see it well, is from COVID. So when COVID-19 happened, there was like messages about stimulus checks and masks and all kinds of, like issues regarding COVID and how you can get help and how you could fix this and how you could go this and you could download this app for testing and stuff like that. So the attackers know this. They use this to their advantage. They're trying to make money in most cases, or gain additional information, and they're going to leverage everything they can. So it's something to be aware of, as these events come out. Like every single time a major event like this happens, scammers and phishers follow up shortly or immediately after that with very targeted campaigns just like that. Also, pretty soon, we're coming into the end of a tax year. At the end of December, early January, like there's going to be people filing for their taxes starting, and then they'll start getting their refunds, a couple months later. every single year this happens. I worked at an organization once. It wasn't an IRS-based one, but we did it around Christmas. And I remember we were talking about how we could get this more realistic, how we could increase our training value and stuff like that. And we were like, okay, well, what do we have going on? And it was like right before Christmas. And we were like, we're all getting packages like crazy because I don't go to the store a lot. I buy a lot of things online. We're like, cool. What if we did a phishing campaign about delivered packages? And we're like, all right, that could be kind of cool. And they're like, also, what if we do one about, like tax refunds? And we started this package delivery one, and we mirrored it just like the emails that Amazon sends. It says like, hey, we couldn't get this package delivered to you. And then we did another one that said like, hey, your package has arrived. And we got so many clicks, we had to like stop the campaign. Like people just went nuts. It was like December 22nd or something like that. Because I remember we were like, okay, we'll do it right before Christmas. All the people that are like eagerly awaiting like their last Christmas gift are getting it like today. And it was like really, really good, really thought out, but we had like crazy high click rates. And then we had to like design a bunch of training to help fix this. And we ended up being a good thing, but it was like a really fun campaign to put on. The IRS one, it went okay. For some reason, we didn't get a lot of people to click on it, but we had something very similar to this, like, hey, your tax refund either didn't go through or you could expedite the processing. And, people reported it, but other people, I think we had one user call the IRS and they were like, hey, I got this email. This isn't me, stuff like that. I did have one. I don't think I have a link on this. No, I have a different Evasion text. I do have a really cool story about this too. Once though, my buddy told me this didn't happen to me, but his organization that he was working at, they sent out a coupon phishing email. So it was like, hey, click this link to download a 20% off coupon for your favorite retail store. And I think it was like, they didn't use Target, but they like hinted that it was Target, and they used like a red banner and they used like something very similar. But I think for like marketing and like legal reasons, they didn't like say it was Target. So they sent this out, a couple people clicked on it and a couple people like went to the site and they had to do the training or whatever. Well, one person clicked the email. They didn't go to the link. They printed the email out and they went to Target and they demanded that they get this coupon, like they honor this coupon. So they went to Target and they were like, I need to talk to a manager. Like, I got this coupon. They sent it to me at work. It's valid. Like, you're giving me 20% off my order. And the manager did it. And they came in the next day and they were like, that was a phishing email. And they were like, oh my gosh, I need to go talk to security. So they went to security and they were like, hey, I'm sorry. I went there. I demanded, this coupon. They gave it to me, like whatever. So yes, we kind of like, I learned really quickly from that. I didn't experience that firsthand. Like, you have to be careful what your campaigns are doing because your users might go off to far extremes. And like I said, people were contacting the IRS and saying like, hey, this isn't me. I need my money back. The coupon thing, that the person actually went to a store. So interesting stuff. This is the package delivery stuff I was talking about. This actually was very similar, if not the actual message that we sent out, and people just went crazy. And it was like a combination of really good stuff. We had the timing just right. We had all the graphics and the images just right. We sent it, to all the impacted parties that we wanted to. And, we just did a really good job on this campaign. It's like one of my favorite success stories. And I haven't really replicated this yet, so might have to at another organization. So another thing, so I posted about this on LinkedIn the other day. I'm hoping everyone here knows what a mullet is. I always wanted a mullet when I was a kid, and I never was allowed to get one. I said my dad was a military dude, so we had like buzz cuts and high tights, my whole life. And I was like, oh, mullets are so cool, man. I'm like, look at this guy. He's got business in the front, party in the back, and all that stuff. So maybe one day when I get out, look at the military or something, I can grow one. There's a really cool, I'll share this one in the chat as well, because I want you guys to have this article too. This company is called Egress. They were purchased by KnowBe4, but they're a security awareness company. I've never used them. I've never used them for their services, but they have this really cool article that they found and they produced it. But KnowBe4 I have used. They're a really good security awareness company. Highly recommend them. I'm neutral. I don't get paid by any of these tools or resources or stuff to share them. They're just cool things that I find along the way. But Egress is a security awareness company. They were purchased by KnowBe4. They're still in that space. They're doing, like phishing emails, videos, stuff like that for you to watch. They identified a really interesting attacker technique where attackers are bypassing email scanning tools. And how they're doing that, they know, we talked a little bit about like when you submit an email, there's a bunch of inline products and there's a bunch of built-in products along the way that are scanning these emails. They're executing attachments, they're executing links in some manners, they're rewriting links, all this stuff. So part of their process is, much like we're doing, they're scanning emails and they're looking for abnormal or malicious activity. What these attackers are doing is they're forcing in a bunch of random texts and links and white space into the front of the emails. They're saying up front, like, hey, we know you're going to check for the first 100 things. And if 98% of them are right, you're going to deem this email as safe. If 3 of them are wrong, you're going to say they're bad. So they're like, we're going to front load a bunch of stuff. So that way your scanners kind of get inundated. They go through a bunch of information. They try and scan through all this, and then they just stop because they can't just scan this infinitely. At some point, they're just going to get tired and say, hey, we're either going to default to yes or default to no. Most of them are going to default to yes and just deliver the message instead of saying like, hey, we're going to stop that. So they're jamming a bunch of stuff up front, and then they're putting their malicious part at the very tail end of the email, knowing that these scanners and appliances aren't going to get through all of it. Personally dubbed this as like the cyber mullet technique, where they're saying, hey, we're going to put all our business stuff up front, all of our evasion techniques, all of our, fake information, all of our flub, for lack of better words. And then once you get tired of that, you're going to get to the back where the business is, where the party is, should I say, where the mullet part of it. It's like, that's where the bad things happen. Things get crazy. That's where you got your links and your bad attachments and stuff like that. So they did a really cool write-up about this. They talked about it. It's just, kind of like another iterating point to show, like, hey, even if they get through all of your detection methods, like the attackers are constantly finding new ways to evade those. They're constantly finding new ways to get emails delivered to you, to get around your detection techniques, to get around your detection capabilities. Like nothing is foolproof. You're going to have someone or some ability to interact with these in a safe manner and make your own determination, or just, forward them and delete them. We talked a little bit about wire transfers or banking information. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, like you should be suspicious of any wiring instructions, confirm if there are changes through another method of communication, scrutinize any message. I know a lot of, like, if you don't work in the finance industry, you're not doing this often, but if you're, you buy or sell a house, you're going to do a wire transfer. You're going to send money, or you're going to receive a lot of money if you, hopefully sell your house and make a big profit on it. Like, I was uber concerned with that. I called them like multiple times, and surprisingly, like my my title company, that's who handled the wire transfer, like they were actually like pretty forward leaning on this. And we had like a phone call, and they're like, listen, we won't ask you to change any of this banking information without calling us. Do not respond to any emails, like call us, we'll confirm this. And they had like a whole process, kind of like a 2 and 3 step process to confirm, who they were and any changes they need to make. Like that's something you should be thinking through. I know if you don't work in finance accounting, you're not going to experience this much, but like you probably will at some point if you buy or sell a house. One of my favorite parts too, like, where does this all lead to? So like, what is the point of all this? In most cases, like sometimes it's to drop a piece of malware, sometimes it's to drop an attachment, sometimes it's to drop like ransomware or something. But like in a very, very high number of these cases, it's just to steal your credentials. That's what they're trying to grab in the environment. They want your credentials. They want to then sell those credentials or gain initial access into your organization, and then either sell that initial access somewhere else or do some sort of business email compromise or whatever. But like, that is what most of these attacks are after. They want your credentials, and then they want to monetize that activity. And they have a number of ways to monetize that. But this is where things like multi-factor authentication, good reporting, blocking some of these sites. Like if you look here in the URL page, in the background, it looks legit. They've done a really good job of rendering the page. This looks just like the Microsoft login page. If you look closely at the URL, it's not even close. And this is like an example of a delivered phishing email that looks well. The link in there, once you execute it, it's going to take you to this page, and then you're going to sign in and kind of go from here. What to do with it? But like, in my opinion, like the best thing is to report these. So report them to your security team. Your email provider has, like a spam, trash, phishing. Well, trash probably wouldn't be the best bet. You're really going to do spam, junk, or phishing. So, and that's going to be your best bet to kind of get this out of your environment, move it along, share that with people. I'm a fan of, like helping other people, building out your network, telling people about, these phishing emails we've got, whether they be like in your work network, your social network, your public message, or your public network. And if you don't know what to do with it, you don't want to do any of those, just delete it. In my opinion, like that's the safest bet, because there is always going to be a risk that you go through this or you search through it again and you inadvertently click on it, and that that resource could still be there. So it could still take you to the bad phishing page or this malicious attachment. This is a little about initial access brokers. We're not going to go into that too much, but it's a really cool resource. If you are interested in learning more about this, you can just Google initial access brokers. They're essentially organizations that spend a lot of time and resources and money trying to get into networks. Once they get into a network, they, harvest credentials or get some sort of backdoor, and then they sell that access to, like a ransomware organization or something like that, that's gonna then take the secondary, tertiary action to further monetize that. But all these IABs are doing is gaining initial access, and then they stop. And then they find a way to monetize that. So I talked a little bit about security awareness programs and stuff, and how much I love compliance run programs. My solution to this, because I don't want to just like throw a bunch of problems at you guys with no solution, is really easy to fix this in the corporate environment or your work environment. You get with your security awareness team and you do these 3 things, and almost every organization is going to have them. It's really easy. You get a box of like really good donuts. You go somewhere that doesn't say Dunkin' Donuts, or I don't even know what other places are, because I don't go to the chain places too much. You want to have like one of those like hole in the wall donut places, maybe that's like cash only, or it just like smells really strong of sugar and they just do donuts really well. Go to one of those joints, get like a box or 2 of donuts. Then talk to your security awareness team, talk to your security team, whatever. They probably have some major like list of really convincing or really good phishing emails that you could use as training aids. Get that approval, collect those, and have a process to talk through those. And then invite everyone in the office or in the department or in the section or whatever into this room and say, hey, we're going to do some security awareness training. The goal here is you're going to, hey, I have donuts. I'm going to draw you in with the donuts. I'm going to talk about phishing. I'm going to explain to you what it is, what we're doing. And then I'm going to throw up some real world phishing examples of people that have been targeting our organization that have reported these. And we're going to talk through, why these are bad. And you're going to say, okay, hey, like, let's look at the domain, let's look at the subject, the content, the links, the attachments, things like that. You're going to walk your individuals through that, and then you're going to give them some blank ones like this. And you're going to say, hey, now you guys as a team together, like each person call out one suspicious indicator. And they're going to say, hey, man, like, or whatever, hey, person, this sender is weird. Hey, the subject is weird. Hey, there's a link in it, stuff like that. The purpose of this is you're getting an organization together, and hopefully this is like a team. This is the whole company, or this is the finance team, the marketing team, the HR team, or maybe it's a few departments. They're all sitting together. They're all looking at the same thing. They're all helping each other out. And then when this email comes through and they're like, hey, I just got an email from one of our vendors. They're asking me to wire this money somewhere. Does that look weird? Or, hey, Bob always sends this email on Friday. It came in on Tuesday. Is that abnormal? But you're trying to encourage that, like team cohesion environment, because that's kind of what you need. Like you want to be able to have those resources to pull in. You want your people to be helping you out. Like I've done incident response all over the world. I've never seen an incident solved by one person ever. It's always a team effort. It's always a group of people. I always learn something new. We always need the users to give us some information, to give us access to things, to give us log records, things like that. So like, if you think you can do this by yourself, you can't. So we try and train people individually. And we're like, hey, watch this video and learn how to stop phishing emails. And it doesn't work. So if you can do that and you can check that compliance box, but then you can take an extra hour or 2, organize this training, execute it. Now users are coming together, they're sitting, they're talking, or they're in group meetings, whatever it is. And now they're like, hey, now I have more resources. I know you, I know security, I know the IT staff, I know my coworkers a little bit better. And we can hopefully use this for good and try and stop some of this bad activity. But that's my, kind of solution to solving this. This is an example email that I would throw up. I like using these because they're actual phishing emails that target your organization. They can help stop, some of this bad activity from occurring. They're like some of your best sources of actual threat intel. We'll talk a little bit about transferable skills. I know we don't have much time, and I want to keep this open for questions. And we saw question already. There's a lot of really good transferable skills from people being in the military, and getting into the cybersecurity world is a daunting task, but like you guys all have really cool, good skills that can translate well. You just have to figure out the way to do that. Like in the military, you follow processes and procedures very well. It's just like a known thing. Like you in the Army, you have a field manual for everything. It tells you how to do every single thing possible in the Army. The Air Force, the Navy, they all have manuals too to do things. You have a way to set up your uniform. You have a way to conduct your PT test. You have a way to, get ready in the morning and to cut your hair and all that stuff. Like that's the same thing in cybersecurity. There's manuals to do all of this stuff. Like very little bit of this is like people making it up as they go. You need to take the time, just like you did in the military, to study the material that's available to you. You have to read those reports, read these news sites, listen to podcasts, things like that. Just like when you first got in the military, like you didn't know all the standards and the procedures and stuff like that, but you studied, you learned from other people, and you kind of moved on. When you have interviews, treat them kind of like promotion boards, study for them, research the company, know some history stuff, things like that. And hopefully you crush it. Staying calm. Like that's one of the most things like I resonate with veterans, like especially combat veterans. Like you've been to crazy stressful environments away from your family. Nothing in the cybersecurity world is as bad as that. Like anytime I'm in an incident, like, okay, cool. Like it's not my emergency. Like I'm not the one that's like physically impacted by this. Like I'm going to go home at some point. I'm going to see my family again at some point. Like no one's really shooting at me. Like it's okay. Don't get overzealous and go crazy because no one benefits from that. So use that to your advantage. Like you've been in stressful environments, you've been yelled at, you've been in time crunches. Like those are all skills that are highly desirable in stressful situations in the corporate environment. Same with being flexible, like when things are not going your way, you got to stand around in line for a long time. Like, not everyone can do that. Sometimes civilians aren't as great at that. Sometimes veterans aren't great at that either, but like use that to your advantage. Like I've waited around all day for an appointment, just like most of you guys have. And it sucks, but I'm more flexible because of it. I've got a bunch of resources too. I'll talk through these like really, really quickly because then I want to stop and have you guys ask questions. So my favorite podcasts. So I try and listen to cybersecurity headlines every day. It's only 10 minutes. It's like wave tops, not a lot of detail, just like high level. Here's what's going on, but I can get through it like almost every day. And then if I'm more interested, I'll go to, one of these websites and look at it more. CyberWire Daily is a little bit longer. I don't listen to that every day, maybe once a week or so. There's the SANS Internet Storm Center. That's like 5 or 10 minutes. Again, kind of like cybersecurity headlines, really, really quick, down and dirty. Down the Security Rabbit Hole, I love that one. That's just like two really smart security guys. They're kind of like no BS. They just shoot it like how it is. They're not sponsored by a bunch of people, and it's a good one. Darknet Diaries, that's a longer one. That's like an hour plus. Those are only like every 2 weeks or every month. Those are more like stories of like these crazy hackers that do all this stuff. It's not really like educational on news. On my top news sites, Bleeping Computer, Hacker News, Krebs on Security, CSO Online, stuff like that. Dark reading. Top publications, if I was going to read one report every single year, I would read the DBIR, Verizon Data Breach Report. I do read that every year. That's like non-negotiable. I don't stray from that. It takes me like a day or two. I take notes. I reference it back multiple times. And then I usually listen to a few podcasts that explain it because that's like my best indicator of what's going on breach wise. And some other ones like this IBM Cost Data Breach, Mandiant Trends, Red Canary, like I might reference those throughout the year, but I'm for sure reading this every year. Firewalls Don't Stop Dragons is awesome. I actually was on that with Carrie when my book dropped. So that is a cool podcast. I talked about phishing with that, but he just did his like 400th episode. So big fan of it. Top tools, we covered some of these: VirusTotal, URL Scan, Triage, Joe Sandbox, Alien Vault, Twitter feeds. How cool. So Monty shared the DBR. These are smart people to follow on Twitter. That changes. Top books. My favorite book of all time, Cuckoo's Egg by Cliff Stahl. If you haven't read that, read it. I think every single cybersecurity person should read it. About this incident response investigation he did in the 80s. Super, super cool. I don't want to get into details, but things that he was doing in the 80s, we're still trying to do right now in 2024. So Sandborn is an awesome book. Also like that one. Fifth Domain for all of us military people. This is another really cool one. Talks about, the cyber domain and the world that we operate in. At War is pretty good. Dark Territory. I haven't read any really new, great cyber books. Kind of on the hunt for those. So if you've got any, definitely like hit me up and I would love to get more recommendations on that. But those are it really. I saw a question. Oh, I didn't get to, and then I'll open it up for any other questions. Do you want to explain the non-technical audience why they request wire transfers or gift cards and where it goes from there? So Douglas asked, do you want to explain to non-technical audiences why they request wire transfers or gift cards and where it goes from there? So yeah, they request wire transfers and gift cards because they're trying to monetize this tech. So they want to take this money, translate it to somewhere where they can control this bank account, and then they will use something like a money mule to then go withdraw that money or cash in these gift cards, and then, essentially wash them and keep moving it through multiple banking systems to evade detection until they can eventually buy a product, buy a service, or extract, cash from that. And the more times they wash out, the harder it is to trace that back, especially if they're going to places where, if they're going against the West, places that we don't have really good extradition or they have very strong privacy laws. And then essentially they're trying to get that money out to do follow-on attacks or to fund a lot of different things. It could be human trafficking, terrorism, could be to fund the government, additional criminal activity. I think most of it is organized crime related, but the DBR actually talks a lot about that, about where some of the money goes and what kind of the different methods and drivers of attacks are. Michael Smith has given me criticism about Dunkin' Donuts and this egress report. Cool. Monty shared that. Jacob, yeah, for the last 12 months to financially. Yeah, I hear that, man. Finding job market right now is crazy. And sometimes I would much rather be deployed than searching for jobs. I got you. Firewalls don't suck dragons. That was a cool plug that I didn't plan. Security Now is a good one. I agree. I can, you know what? I will post that on LinkedIn, Jonathan. I will post my resources page. You guys can have, because I know once this meeting ends, the chat won't be available. So I will take a screenshot of it and share this for you guys. Is it okay to share something about SANS certification? Do you have a question for me, Royden, or are you going to share something in the chat about a SANS cert? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm assuming I'm not 100% sure what you're asking about the SANS cert. I have a few SANS certs. They're pretty good. They're really expensive. We can take advantage of some free scholarships. Oh, that's cool. All right. So Royden shared a resource to getting some free SANS courses. I think the last time I checked, like a SANS course is standard 5 or 6 day courses, like $9K. So if there's some sort of scholarship like this, I 100% would recommend using that. I would not pay that money out of pocket. I would have an employer or someone like that pay for them. $9K and you have to pay for lodging. Yeah, it's absurd. And it's not going down. I mean, like the first SANS course I took was like $5K and we talked about how outrageous that was. And now they're like $9,100 and they do have the best instructors. I will say that. So for everyone's knowledge, SANS instructors, I think pretty much everyone is a part-time instructor. They all still work in industry or the businesses and stuff like that. They pay their instructors very well. And they have a very mature process for selecting and maintaining instructors. Like it's not like, I want to be an instructor, like I can start tomorrow. Like you have to audit classes and you have to demonstrate your ability to teach the material and you're constantly updating your material. If you become an instructor, it's tough. But they have really good, mature courses and instructors. Yeah, certs unfortunately are tough. It used to be like kind of easy. If you got a CISSP used to be like the golden cert. If you got that, you could open up so many doors. And now there's so many different certs. Yeah, people are having trouble figuring that out. I did see a tip yesterday on LinkedIn that someone shared that was really useful, that might be useful for some people looking for jobs. They said they had applied to a bunch of jobs just in the standard method of submitting their resume and going to websites and stuff like that. And then they actually got a job by finding companies that were hiring, connecting with the hiring individual or person in the company, starting a conversation with them about the organization or about the position, and then applying to the job. So they were kind of going an extra step to say like, hey, I'm going to do a little bit of internetworking, try and make a connection here. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it might set me apart a little bit from just applying. So I was in, social engineering to get a job. That's insane. So the greatest risk of phishing happening is the lack of leadership willing to invest quality time and money to ensure employees are truly informed. That is true. I mean, like, I agree with that in some regards. It is a major risk, but it just like anything related, it's risk management. So like the organization has to understand, where they're willing to allocate resources to mitigating risks. And everyone's got a different risk tolerance level. So some organizations might not have much tolerance for phishing. Some do. Some might have a very high tolerance for breaches. Some don't. So I agree. It is a major concern, but how do I address executives having a higher fail rate on phishing simulations? So that is a great question. That comes into having buy-in from your senior leadership. If you don't have that, none of this is possible. So if I have executives that are continuing to have very high click rates or failing or clicking on phishing emails, I would package that up in a neat and clean manner. I would present that to my senior leadership with proposed solutions. I had a boss once tell me, like, never come to me with problems without solutions, even if they're bad solutions. Just come up with something. And then I would go to them and say, hey, I'm noticing this demographic is clicking more links. I think they should do additional training, or I think we should have additional security controls in place. This is why. And you go from there. If your leadership truly does support you, they'll they will support you and they will give you additional resources. If they don't, then you kind of have your answer and you just carry on. Your take on the deployment of AI to auto apply for roles. I think it could help you. I think I was listening to a podcast today and they said AI is like a chainsaw. You could use it to cut down a forest pretty efficiently, or you could use it to cut off your arm. And it's all about like knowing how to use it safely and knowing how to use it effectively. And I think that's like pretty accurate for AI right now. Like you can have AI generate a 10-page paper for you or a resume for you in 2 seconds, but if it's not good, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So you applied to 800 roles overnight and you didn't get one single response. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that AI process isn't personable enough, or maybe it's not making it to the end result or something like that. I think it's an interesting concept to use AI. I don't know enough. I'm not an expert on AI to give tips of how to make that more effective, unfortunately, but I use AI all the time to help look at large data sets or to help me research or find information about things. Oh yeah, sorry, my Alien Vault. Good catch on that. I had a spelling issue on Alien Vault. Thanks. Cool. Well, thank you guys all for coming out. I really appreciate it. I enjoy this stuff a lot. If you've got questions, like definitely, like I said, hit me up. If you've got someone that needs help with security, or you know someone in an organization that needs some assistance or some security training, hit me up. I would love to chat with them. The slide deck, I don't know what the protocol is. I'll chat with Tom about that and see if I can share it. I typically don't share my slide deck, but I'll see what the process is. I will share this resources page on LinkedIn, like I said, but I enjoyed it. Again, I apologize for the beginning where I couldn't really show you guys my page and we weren't on the same page, but hopefully we got that figured out and you guys got all the content and it was interactive. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. So if you could shoot me a message or message me on this platform, I'll probably be exiting in the next couple minutes, but a LinkedIn message or a post would be awesome. I'm all for feedback, positive, negative. You could just say, hey, this was a total waste of time. Or it was cool. I liked how you did this and that. My goal was to make it interactive and try and give you guys some resources. Cool. All right. Well, I'll hang out for a couple more minutes. If you guys have questions, just keep throwing them at me in the chat. Otherwise, I'll be heading out in, 7 minutes. Cool. Thanks, Roden. So Homeland, that's a great question. I have old laptops that I've repurposed for home labs. So I don't have like some crazy fancy setup at my house. I just take some of my old laptops and I put on like a Kali Linux or an Ubuntu or some virtual box environment, and then I'll run some VMs on it. Most of the time though, like I'm executing stuff using like free open source tools. Thanks, Monty. Cool. You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for guys for coming out. You're all welcome. Like I'm pumped to be able to do this. It's cool. I love, like I said, working with veterans and helping you guys out. This is my favorite demographic. I know you guys can be frustrating at times. I can be frustrating at times too, but it's cool. We all kind of have a good known reference point, and it's always fun working with vets. Yeah. And I've got one on Friday or on Sunday too, actually. So if you guys are free, I've got another presentation then too, but, yeah, actually I hear my, one of my kids calling for me. So I'm actually gonna head out now. If you guys got questions or anything, again, throw up you guys can find me on LinkedIn. It's my email. You guys want to shoot me a message or whatever, but you guys have a great evening and a great rest of your day. Cool. Looking forward to, send connections. I'm happy to connect and chat more on LinkedIn. That's cool. And if you can send like, hey, I saw the presentation, here's my feedback or whatever, it's also cool. Or like I said, a post would be awesome just to get more people involved, so people see what VetSec's about. People can get additional resources and get tied into, their local community and get better.